Hello, I am your host, Thelma Johnson, President of the Martha's Vineyard branch of the Association for the Study of African American Life and History. We are celebrating the theme this year, African Americans in Times of War. And we will be talking today with a veteran of the Army whose name is Alvin R. He has served in the Army, and we will ask him questions about his career as a military man. Good evening.
Hello.
And how are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
I would like for you to share with us where you served.
Well, I was drafted into the Army. My basic training was done at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, after which I went to advanced infantry training at Fort Ord, California. After 8 weeks there and a holdover period and some complications of the Army figuring out what to do with me, I then moved to Washington, D.C., where I served in the Old Guard, the Honor Guard of the United States Army.
And how was that for you?
Well, which part do you want to know? Because basic training was pretty frustrating and difficult, as everyone who's ever gone through that would say. The advanced infantry training was a little better because I had never been to California. And so I had a little better opportunity to see part of the world that I had never seen before. And then I wound up as a holdover, which is you're kind of in a suspense status waiting for orders. And I had a lot of free time, and I got to see Carmel and Monterey and some of the beauties of California before I wound up with my permanent assignment in Washington.
Tell me about the instructors for you in the Army.
Well, instructors are basically in your basic training and your early training. And I had what I would call a love-hate relationship with these people. What the military does, certainly the Army I know, but what the military does is it takes young kids and pretty much breaks them down, is my term. They really are tough on you and make you march in straight lines and do push-ups and those kind of things. And at the same time, they develop this esprit de corps where you really learn to respect the people who are training you, and you have competitions with other units, and you wind up with an esprit de corps that makes you kind of really like these people and appreciate their service to the country.
You mentioned that you served in the Old Guard. Tell us about that.
The Old Guard is a unit, the oldest unit in the Army. It is stationed in Washington, D.C. and Arlington, Virginia. It is the battalion that does ceremonial Washington, D.C. kinds of events. I was there during the Vietnam era. I participated regularly in funerals at Arlington National Cemetery. We did some state dinners, and one of the I guess most noted thing that I remember, I was part of the detailed cordon in Arlington Cemetery when Bobby Kennedy was buried, and we had a regular diet of formal presentations of parades, excuse me, parades and other kinds of flag presentations at state dinners and things of the kind.
Tell me about two of your most memorable experiences.
The Bobby Kennedy funeral was memorable. Because we were deployed. Remember, the train was slow getting there, was late. The procession lasted all day. And we actually stood at parade rest, which is a relaxed attention stance for about 7 hours on the line up to where his burial was. And it was just kind of one of those things that happens in the military when, when it gets tough, you just got to get tough with it. And occasionally they'd come by with a glass of water for us, but basically we stood there without any food or anything, just looking looking sharp.
Were you awarded any medals of any kind while you were in the service?
I had the basic service awards, rifleman awards, but nothing of any great distinction other than just having served as a soldier. I don't even frankly recall what they were. I know I got the Marksman Award for shooting in basic training, but nothing, no, I was not in any kind of a war zone where most medals are earned.
I see. What was the food like?
It's interesting. You learn in the military that you do want to eat in the mess hall on Sundays, because a lot of guys go home on Sundays, and that's when they have steak and the nice stuff that there's plenty of it to go around. And at other times, it's not all that great.
While you were there, how did you stay in touch with your family?
Mostly by writing letters. We were not really financially able to make, when I was in the service, we were paid like $80 a month or something like that. It wasn't a lot of money. So there was a pay phone, but you really didn't want to put your quarters in that phone. So most of the contact with my parents and family was in written mail.
We need to talk about the years that you were there. That'll make what you're saying more relevant.
Yeah, I went in '66 and was discharged in 1968.
Okay.
So I served 2 years as a drafted.
As a drafted military.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So you mentioned that you traveled while you were there, other than California. Was that basically where you traveled?
Yeah. That I simply, at the military's expense, I went to California and to Washington D.C. I took a couple of small trips myself when I had leave, but basically when I had leave time, I went back home to my family.
Okay. I've heard about pranks that military people play on one another. What are some of the pranks that you and others would pull on each other while you were in the military?
Now you really want me to tell on myself, don't you? The most noted one that I can remember is that we had bed check the time we had to be in, and we had to be in by, I think it was 9:30. And I wanted to go to a movie that was on the post, and I went to this movie, and it didn't get out until after that, right? But some of my buddies had taken a duffel bag and put it in my bed and covered it up like I was in there asleep. and when I returned, at 10 o'clock or whatever it was, a couple guys said, "Hey man, I think you got caught," So the next morning I got called in, and the first sergeant was chastising me for missing bed check, and I actually told the little one and said, yes, I did, and I said, I'm really proud of the fact that my buddies tried to cover for me. And he said, just get out of here, Johnson.
Okay. Said, did you go to any graduate training while you were there, or any college? Did you take advantage of any of those benefits?
No, I did go to college after I came out on the GI Bill. I used the GI Bill for my college education, but while I was in the service, I did not attend any kind of educational courses.
Did you make any lasting friendships or relationships as a result of the military?
Yeah, I had a couple of 2 or 3 friends that we became close, but frankly, they didn't last that much, except for one fella who married while he was in the service. He and his wife became very close friends of mine, and in fact introduced me to my wife. And that went quite well for several years. And in fact, after several years, we were reunited. We went our separate ways, but after several years, we reconnected with his wife after he had passed away. So that was probably the most lasting of any of the friendships I made.
What did you go on to do after you left the military?
Well, I returned to my home. I was I had not finished my college education, and so I returned to college. I returned to my former employer and progressed fairly well with that employer. And I married just as I left the military, and I had a handsome career with a beautiful wife and two lovely children.
So, are you a member of any veterans organizations today?
No, I am not.
Okay. So, what do you really think? How did the military really affect your life overall?
It was an experience for me that gave me a foundation, sort of. The military, I said earlier that it has a way of breaking kids down and making men out of them. The discipline that you learn in the military is very, very powerful. In fact, I think our society now really needs a draft, or needs to take a lot of these young men and women into the military to give them discipline and structure, which was, not that I didn't have that, because I had a pretty solid family relationship coming up, but it really does teach you responsibility and dedication to a cause.
Thank you so much, but I'd like to ask my last question. Is there anything you would like to add that we've not covered in this interview?
Gee, that's an interesting question. I think can only say that the one lasting thing about serving in the military is that you feel a pride of having given yourself to what may come. I was in the Vietnam era, and frankly, I will tell you, I was scared to death that I was going to be sent to Vietnam. But I would have gone if I had been sent, and I would have served. And the military just kind of leaves you with that attitude, which is, if you want me to do something, tell me, and I'm prepared to do it.
Thank you so much for sharing your military life with us.
No, thank you.